Episode number 100, everybody. That's what we're here to do with Kyle Starks right here on the Capes and Tights podcast at capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. Kyle is the writer of books like Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, Rick and Morty, I Hate This Place, and Where Monsters Lie, and the upcoming DC Black Label book, Peacemaker Tries Hard. We talked a bunch of different things, including a lot of I Hate This Place, Where Monsters Lie, and we touched on Peacemaker. We also chatted a little bit of basketball towards the end, so if anybody doesn't want that, you can fast forward through that, but we enjoy talking basketball here as well as Kyle does as well. So enjoy episode number 100 right here on the Capes and Tights podcast, and thank you, everybody, for listening, supporting, and subscribing to the podcast on Apple and Spotify. 5-star reviews would be welcome. Just follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But episode 100 right here with Kyle Starks, comic book writer and artist. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Kyle Starks. How are you?
Hey, man, I'm really good. Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here and talk about some comic books.
Yeah. First of all, how's life right now? Have you been to conventions lately, or what are you doing right now other than writing, creating?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of writing. I just did 3 conventions in a row in March, and I'm doing 2 little ones this month, like 2 little regional shows this month, and then I think I'm off until June, and then it's back to like nonstop insanity. But we're busy. I'm the busiest I've probably ever been. I think as of tomorrow, I'll be the busiest I've ever been. I think that's true.
Doesn't it feel like busier though for a lot of us? Like, because we didn't do shit for like 2 years or like whatever. That everything, it doesn't matter what we do. It feels like we're way busier than we actually are anyway.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I also, like, my daughters have became teenagers since the pandemic, and it just feels like emotionally I have a lot going on, and also business wise I have a lot going on. And usually I kind of time projects in a way where I'm not sort of not overrun, but usually I try to keep it at like 2 books at a time, and maybe like a book I'm working on that I'm writing and drawing, and it's about to be crazy, I think. So, but it's good. It's what we want. Like, that's what we aspire for. I think that's what we aspire for. I think we want to be well sold, maybe not very busy, but I'll take very busy in lieu of well sold. So.
Well, so Kyle, how did you get started into collecting? Like, I'm guessing you've been a comic book fan your entire life, or at least most of your life. How did you get into like wanting to be a collector or a reader of comic books in the first place?
Yeah, it's funny. And I'd say like most of my life, I took a long break in the middle actually, but I don't know when I actually started like owning comics or reading comics. I always remember doing it. I think my uncle is to blame for that. His name's Tony Starks. He actually used to write for some of the like the Comic Buyer's Guide. He had like a monthly I'd say strip. That's how they're called when you write them. Article.
Yes.
I think for Comic Buyer's Guide. So he has always had like the side hustle of Silver Age and Golden Age comics, and I have to assume somehow he got me and my brother into comics because I've always had a pull list. It was always sort of like, if you do all your chores, like you can have this brown paper bag full of comics. And I always joke, like, I only had the worst. I had the worst ones. I don't know like how I kept reading comics, but I had like the worst version of all the sort of most basic vanilla comics. Like I had Hulk, but it was the Hulk where he's in the Crossroads dimension, which is like these weird sci-fi stories. Like, they're not even Hulk superhero stories. And I had Justice League, but it was Justice League Detroit. And I look back and I was like, oh man, that's probably why I'm the way I am. Me and my brother both started working at the comic book shop when we were 14. The comic book shop also was a video rental store, and it used music and used books and baseball cards and pornography. And it was like this just being inundated with pop culture. And I did that until I went up to college, which was the mid 90s. I stand by that the mid 90s were just a terrible time for comics. Everything was very grimdark, and it wasn't any fun. Like, there's exceptions, and there were bright exceptions. But so I got out of comics. I was going to go be a fine artist. I very quickly learned like that's not realistic. Like, I had a better chance of making the NBA than I did of being like a professional fine artist. So I got out of comics for a really long time in terms of like sort of keeping up with and reading. I mean, maybe 10 years, maybe longer. I know when I came back, I was like, what? We don't like John Byrne anymore? It was all very shocking to me. But so it was. yeah, I mean, I never sort of gave up my sort of, that I love the media. And so when this is my origin story, my short version, because I tell it all the time. But when I was about to have my second kid, I made a list of things I never did or
Mhm.
never completed. And the first thing was like finish a comic book. I bet you I had drawn 18 pages of a 20-page comic. I bet I had drawn like 20 pages. I just never finished them. And I got distracted by life. I had the union jobs, and I made a comic. I tricked myself into making a comic every week that I didn't advertise, and I just fell in love with it. I really just fell in love with it. So I got back into comics pretty hard. And for sure, I know it. I know like there were certain things that were like, hey, you should check this out that happened around the same time. I'm pretty sure I read like Jason's, I Killed Hitler or something like that.
Mhm.
One of his books, and I was like, holy shit, like comics can be anything. Because I think the thing that always held me back is that I was like, well, I can't draw like Jim Lee. I can't draw like Rob Lee. I can't even draw like Rob Liefeld. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So seeing some sort of indie stuff, and we were way into sort of like the hate, eight ball type stuff. So to me that was like very indie, but it wasn't a way you could tell like a math story. So yeah, I'm back in, obviously. Like I'm trying not to fill up space, but I'm sort of getting old runs that I never completed, or that I lost through time. That no one wants. No one wants the things that I want. So I'm doing more collecting now probably than I have in 15 years for sure.
I'm far beyond what I should possibly collect right now at this point too. My wife's like, where are you going to put all this shit? Like you have no room for stuff. Because I've also found myself falling into a category of, I would like say I didn't mean like I was previewing, or Dark Horse sends me Where Monsters Lie or whatever, a PDF of it, and I feel like, okay, I read it, it's great, it's awesome. I should probably order this for myself too and get a copy, even if I didn't like it. I just feel like I feel like I need a copy because I read it and I have an investment into it, and then so like now I'm like I have the number, like I have the most issue number ones that I've ever had in my
Oh,
entire
sure.
life, just because
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, why did I buy this in the first place? I'm not going to buy issue two. The
Yeah.
book's not that
Because you
great or
because you
whatever.
interviewed somebody. Yeah, you interviewed somebody, right? Well,
Yeah, I'm
sure.
like, oh,
We
that's
appreciate
cool.
we appreciate it. We appreciate it. So
But then there's other ones where I'm like, okay, I mean, I love Where Monsters Lie, but don't get me wrong. But I'm saying like it's only 4 issues too, so like I found myself, okay, I can buy 4 issues. It's not like I can't.
yeah.
I'm not. I can. 4 issues is not hard to commit to. It's not like a huge thing. But like, yeah, it's kind of funny how I like have felt like I was given the copy free to preview in a PDF, so I feel obligated to buy it too.
Well, like I
But
said, all the creators you've interviewed appreciate it. So
yes. I mean, there and a lot of them. I am lucky enough that I'm similar to David Harper over at Off Panel. He only interviews
we
people he
love him.
wants to talk to, right? It's not like he's
Yes.
talking. No one above him is telling him, "Hey, you need to talk to Kyle Starks because he's got a book coming out," and so on and so forth. Like David's only going to talk to people he wants to talk to. The same thing here. I'm only going to talk to
Yeah,
people who
we
I
love it.
want to talk to, and so like luckily enough that the people who are on the podcast, I like their work, so it's like not hard to collect their comic books and read their comic
Yeah.
books. But yeah, so
We
you
like
know,
to hear it. We like to hear it.
and it starts with like I hate this place. I think it's the first I've actually heard of Kyle Starks. So that's a honest opinion here. So that's a good and bad thing, I think, because I think
No,
starting with
no.
I hate this place is a good starting point for a Kyle Starks fan, right?
I think it's an interesting starting place, but I accept it as a good starting place. I've had a lot of people because Peacemaker got announced.
Yep.
It's coming out May 2nd, and I just did an interview with someone, and they're like, oh, you're a hot up and comer, and I was like, and then they're like, I know that's probably an insult. You've probably been doing this for a while, and I'm like, man, it's not an insult. Like we're just happy to be here. Like I know what my prior book sold. Like I know
Yeah.
how many people read them. I hate this place. I'm extremely proud of that book. I don't know if it's the truest, like this is what Kyle Starks is,
Yeah.
because it's kind of my most serious book. Um, I think Where Monsters Lie, I'd be like that. If you were coming in post I Hate This Place, Where Monsters Lie is probably, if you like that, you're like, oh my stuff. But I think that's true if I Hate This Place too. I think if you like that, then you see that I have a specific voice and I
Mhm.
have a specific type of story. Not a specific type of story, but there's themes I'm really fixated on. And those run through all of my books. So it's like I take it. It's interesting because Where Monsters Lie has sold out. Issue
Mhm.
one sold out. Issue two sold out. And I've had a lot of sort of internal discussions with my people. I don't have people, but with like myself and some retailers I like. It was like I want like how much did I Hate This Place cause that sellout?
Mhm.
Because would it have sold out before I Hate This Place? I don't think it have sold out before Peacemaker was announced. It did,
Mhm.
right? So it's interesting to be like like what book matters sort of the most is I do sort of like the the mathematic formula runs across my face, like the meme or whatever. So I'll take it, man. I mean, it's my best selling book for sure. I love that book. I love those characters. Whatever I think, and I believe this firmly. I say that with doubt, but I think if anyone reads any of my books to date and they like it, they'll like any of my books. I think
Yeah.
that's 100% true. So I always hope I did Assassination with Erica Henderson years ago, and I thought this will be the book that gets people to read the books that I made before: Sex Castle, Kill Them All, Rock Candy Mountain. Two of those were Eisner nominated. No humble brag thrown in there. Um, and it really didn't. Amazingly, it really didn't. Because I thought, oh, Erica's readers will come, all the Squirrel Girl readers will come, and it'll be really good for me, sort of. Because that's all I want. I didn't make any of these books not to be read, right? That's all I care about. I just want everything to be read, and I'm such a guy. Like if I find a movie I like, I'll look at the director, I'll look at the writer, I'll watch another thing by those guys, and if I like either one, then I watch it. You know what I mean? That's how I consume things, and I don't think everybody does, but that's always my hope that someone's gonna be like, oh, I hate this place. We should check out something else, and they do. And if they like it, they'll like everything. I firmly believe that. No eggs. I've made no eggs yet. No trash yet. Doing the best. There's some exceptions. Like I don't expect everyone to be a Rick and Morty fan, and I don't think everyone's an Alpha Betas fan. Those are very much licensed books, right? But yeah, no, I'm not like that's awesome. I'm excited for anyone. That's such a long way to go to being like, yeah. I basically the guy's like, oh, you're an up and comer, and I'm like, thank goodness. You know what I mean? Like, thank goodness I'm finally coming. I'm doing the best I do. No, it didn't take that. No, it really didn't. I started professionally 6 years ago, right? Professionally just 6 years ago, and no one was reading me. That's the year I think I started on Rick and 6 years ago, which is nothing. And I'm 46 now, so that's some sort of inspirational something to somebody. He didn't get started till he was so old.
Well, it's true though. I mean, I'm 37, so it's like if I'll be 37 in May, but like if I wanted to start doing something as well, I can't imagine. Like it's not like like you mentioned about making the NBA earlier. Like there's no way you and I are making the NBA right now. Like there's no way. There's a 0% chance. Like there's not even a point zero zero. There's a 0% chance that you and I are making the NBA right now. But there is a at least small percentage of something that I could do anything in the comic book industry.
Yeah, well, you can always make something cool. You can make something cool at any age. That's really like you can do something cool. It just varies. You have to have a certain degree of standards for what's successful, I think. But anyway, yeah, that guy said it. You just said, "I'll take it, man."
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'm happy to be here. That's my answer every time. And if I'm up and coming, I do feel like somehow I'm doing my best work. Now
you can be up and coming if you were there, but then you're getting further up that thing. So you're up and coming anywhere. I mean, it's not like you're up and coming. We just mentioned James Tiny in the fourth. Like he's not up and coming, but I mean, as he grows.
Yeah, he's on a skyrocket. Some people on an upward arc, and they've earned it. Good for them. Great for them. The rest of us have to sort of scratch and claw at it. So,
but I hate this. You've been known as a comedy writer, and a comedy is a bad word in a sense because
it
of the
is
fact
a
that
bad
it doesn't.
Word.
I'm not a huge comic book fan, but there is some that strike a chord with me. But like, I've always equated, and it's a weird thing. I'm a huge Marvel Cinematic Universe fan, and one of the things I've always respected, and my wife actually respects, she's not a comic book person at all, but she loves the MCU, is because there's always tension breaking comedy that I always joke. Yeah, I always joke that someone farts at a funeral or tells a joke at a funeral or something along those lines, because it's not always dark, grim, dreary stuff. So like, even and I hate this place where they're getting like attacked at each and every way. There's still jokes and comedy in it where it lightens the mood a little bit. So you're not like, we're in escapism here. We were reading comic books to get away from the world we live in right now. So like, we don't always do that, but like some people do that. And having that small amount of comedy in there is a great thing.
It's one of those things. It's so again, this is stories I tell a lot, but comedy is really sort of a bad word, and especially big two direct market stuff. Like if you're a direct market reader, because you've been burned by it so many times. Like I get it. Comedy is very subjective, but when comedy is done well, and I always say, I think Chip Zdarsky, Mark Russell, Ryan Brown, there are some guys who do it consistently. That we get that comedy is for everybody, and people who have different sort of grades for what comedy is. But as I say that, I push it all aside. I wish that none of my stuff was ever pitched as comedy. because I think like anything that's good anything that's good has everything in it. It has drama, it has suspense, it makes you cry, it upsets you. And I think for the most part, there's some stuff that is like probably pure comedy. Sex Castle, I think of, but also Sex Castle is about like personal responsibility and the effects of parents on their children. Things like there's a lot more going on than just me kind of goofing on genre stuff. So I also like think I say is like someone's like, hey man, what's the funniest scene in a movie? I'd be like, I don't know, probably something from like on an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where he does some shitty pun. Because to me that's really funny, but no one goes, well, that's a comedy movie. And I always think like it's funny. And again, I'm sort of tangenting around, but when I Hate This Place came out, so many people were like, "Oh, it's really funny." I was like, "Oh, I didn't intend for it to be funny at all. I just want to make charming, likable characters, and I think I do that through humor because in real life, the people I like are the ones who amuse me and entertain me. And so like things that some because of that, and because of just sort of my how I do things, my voices, I think it's always going to slide in there. And I was very resistant to it during the pandemic, which is when I Hate This Place because I want more readers. Like I said, I'm not making these things for the void. I want them to be consumed. And several editors and a couple of publishers were like, don't do comedy. Like comedies. And I've been given that advice again recently, and I think it's true. I think there's truth to it. But at the point where that was happening was during the pandemic when I was like, I'm not going to do comedy for a while. I'm going to really step away from it. Though I think it will always be a little comedic because of just I can't help myself, I guess. But the pandemic was so bad. I was like, you know what? If my legacy is I make only a small number of people like 45 minutes of joy in their lives, I think it's pretty good. And then Peacemaker came along, and obviously that's humorous. And it's just like, well, I guess like I'm sort of being guided in a certain way. But I do want to like I have 2 books coming out. I have 2 books I've had pitches approved for, I should say, that are less humorous, and not humorous. To me, they're not humorous, and I kind of want to be able to show like I can do more than just sort of humor books, which I don't think they're humor books. Like I really Peacemaker is a big dumb fun book. Like, is it funny? It's like sure, but it's big dumb and fun. Period. To me first.
Yeah, but it also IP is a little bit easier to sell as comedy than it is than your own create your own stuff.
Sure. Where Monsters Live, like that first issue, is definitely humorous, no question. But the issue 4, not at all. Well, I say not at all. There's probably some stuff in there, but it's like that's just I think it's just how I've learned to sort of engage people to like these characters. Because I think the most important thing you can do, sort of with your creator own first issue stuff, is make characters that people want to spend time with, whether they like them or not. But you can hate someone and want to spend more time with them. And I think like to make them engaging, like I just they're just charming. And to me, my version of charm is, I guess, funny too. I know Dante Howitzer and I Hate This Place were like, he's so funny. And I'm like, really? Like, that's interesting to me. I guess he's kind of funny, but I don't think he's as funny as you. Maybe it's just because like you guys haven't read a lot of very good funny books, but he seems like he's a great character. Don't get me wrong. I love Dante Howitzer.
He's likable in that sense. Like, so I don't know if people are associating funniness with likability but he's likable. And then so it's funny because if you explain I Hate This Place to someone just in a small thing, it would be like you have your zombies, your ghosts, your monsters, the couple itself, having them be women, mixed race, gay, like that whole thing is like, that's not funny. None of that's funny. Like none of that's funny at all. And then you have to lighten it somehow, because I wouldn't want to read a book that's literally just that stuff, because it would be just so depressing in that sense that the small little jokes in here and lines of humor just break that tension a little bit that make you go, I want to read the next issue. First of all, before I go any further, I just read 7 and I am pissed that I don't have 8 yet. This is the first time in a long time that I've had that much excitement at the end of an issue where I'm like, what the hell? Where's issue 8? And I said, there's a bigger cliffhanger than the end of your first volume. I'm like, this is.
I'm trying to drop these cliffhangers, man. It's funny. Before I Hate This Place, Chris Schweitzer, who's sort of my virtual studio mate, and he drew Mars Attacks, he drew 6 Sidekicks. He was like, man, your endings aren't very good. Like your issue endings aren't very good. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, they're okay. And he's like, at the end of your issues, a character always says just what's going to happen in the next issue. And I'm like, yeah, I want them to have anticipation for the next issue. And he's like, no, you shouldn't tell them why they should get the next issue. You should give them a reason to want the next issue. And I'm like, no, that's what in my head. I'm like, no, but that's what I'm doing. I'm telling them why they want the next issue, right? But I took that to heart. So like, I think you'll see I'm really taking the end of issues very seriously. I'm so proud of issue 7. I thought, man, I'm going to hear all over the internet. People are going to be like, and I'm like, I haven't, but hopefully maybe at these shows they'll be like, oh, this happened and that happened. I'm like, yeah, listen, the last 3 issues of this book are buck wild. Like they're buck wild things are happening. And my sincere hope is, I don't ruin all the goodwill with this crazy ending. For I Hate This Place. I hope I don't blow all the goodwill I got from the first, 7 issues on the last 3.
I mean, it'd
My
be
dogs
hard
are barking.
to. I mean, I
can
was,
hear them.
no, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was just crazy. I was like, you know what? I don't think that I've had that much. Like, and I'm just glad there is more issues. Like, I would be pissed if you're like, you didn't know if there's gonna be another issue, because I'd be like, holy shit, it would be so pissed off that there wasn't any more. But I love it because it was almost, it was surprising to me. And that's the other thing. It wasn't just a cliffhanger in a sense. There was also a twist in it that made me go, oh, holy shit, there's more to this than they're just what we see. I didn't think there could be any more than that.
No, there's, it's funny you say that, because I remember a review for issue 1, which was all glowing. They were all like, I'm again so lucky. But someone was like, well, what else can Starks throw? And I'm like, I haven't done any of it. Like, that's so little to me. That's an issue 1. I'm like, I know there's a lot happening, but that's like the bare minimum. Because I could have sincerely done this book for 50 issues.
Mm-hmm.
The sandbox that it is, because it's basically a ranch where everything bad's there. There's supernatural stuff. There's monsters. I could do any genre of horror I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And like I do home invasion for the beginning of the second arc. There's a slasher in the first one, humor slasher, the worst kind of slasher, human slasher. I could have done any genre I wanted to, and even at one point the artist was like, we could have done Dracula's. I'm like, yeah, we could have done anything. That's the great thing about Rutherford Ranch, is that I could have told any type of horror story I wanted. And I have not and will not get to tell many of them that I would have liked to, but I got to do the beginning and end that I wanted to do for that book. And I got to tell the story that I wanted to tell for Gabby and Trudy. And most people don't get that. I'm lucky I got to tell the exact story I wanted, if not maybe 10 issues fewer than I would have liked, or 20 or 30 or whatever.
And so you're obviously at 10. You're doing 10 issues. Are you all done? Are you writing it all up? It's all done. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're just waiting on Artnium now.
Okay. See, hey, hurry up. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But it's just there's so much.
1 month at a time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like he has to hurry up that much, because obviously the next issue issue 8 doesn't hit till May 3rd anyway. But
it's right around the corner. That's the same week Peacemaker comes out. I'm gonna have 3 books.
Wait, hold on. You have 3 books coming out that week: May 2nd, May 3rd, May 3rd.
It'll be triple Kyle Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is if you're a big Kyle fan, I talked to Cullen Bunn, and Cullen Bunn was like, I stopped trying to coordinate that because he has so many books out. He was like, I basically didn't want you to have to go to the new comic book day and be like, okay, I'm really big Cullen Bunn fan. I have to buy 6 comic books from him today. So he's like, I'm going to try my best to spread it out, but sometimes stuff like this happens, whether it's print delays or just scheduling issues or whatever.
I kind of like it because really, you only need to go to the comic shop once that month.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Like I've really made it more efficient. That's also free comic book day week.
Yep.
So
the new Guardians of the Galaxy is out that week.
Great. It'll be a hot one for me.
It's our Star Wars week here at the podcast. So look at that. It's a big week. There you go.
Yeah, it's May 4th, right? That's that Friday.
Yeah. We have a bunch of stuff going on. But yeah, so
I didn't realize all 3 were dropping on the same day. I don't know why I didn't know that. I thought Where Monsters Lie ended the month before.
Yeah. No, it's May 3rd. I looked it up earlier. May 3rd for issue 8. May 3rd for issue 4, and then obviously May 2nd, because DC is fun and they do that whole day before ruining our new comic book day. I'm not going to go on my tangent about that, but I hate this place. It's such a big hanger. If anybody has read it to this point or haven't read issue 7, it is, I think, one of the better issues of it, which is random to have issue 7 be one of the best issues in the series so far. But
really, I don't know why I say 7. Yes, 9 and 10 are kind of, to me, like one issue. I think it still splits pretty well, but 9 and 10 is sort of like, to me, one issue. But yeah, it's weird 7. But 7, if I would have done 15 issues, this would have been the end for this the home invasion arc would have been one issue longer, right? this would have been the end to that home invasion arc, which would have been one issue longer. But that's all what ifs. I'm really pleased with it. I was like, people are gonna go crazy when they see the end of issue 7, and clearly you did. So that's all I really need. I think other people did too, but people just aren't vocal about spoil. I understand that you don't do spoilers or
You don't
whatever.
want to do spoilers, yeah. And it's one of those things. Like, there's a couple of things I want to say right now, even that I like related to something else, but I can't. And actually related to something else that's in an issue that I might say to you once we press stop on the recording, because there's this one thing that I was like, it's kind of funny. It has to do with like your list of in the woods horror movies that's at the end of one of the issues, and there's a movie in there that relates to me. It makes me think of issue 7. But one of the things I will say is I give you respect on The Village. I like The Village. Okay,
I like The Village.
Well, you wrote little quotations just next to it saying, don't hate me or something like that. But I like The Village. Gets a lot of trash. And I love the Jurassic Park reference. I think I've heard it multiple times from multiple people. But my wife and I, there's a musical group called the Vitamin String Quartet, and they do like violin songs of like famous songs and other people's songs. And our walk down the aisle song at our wedding was the Jurassic Park theme song by violins. So Jurassic Park has always got that, and that line in there about like, this is like my, when he sees the dinosaurs for the first time, this is what it's like to me. Great line.
Yeah, good one, Dante. Good Dante Howardson line.
Yeah, see, and he's likable. And maybe people think that's a joke. Maybe that's what maybe they think that's comedy in it.
Yeah, they do. And there's little, like, I think Artyom drew him with like the tiniest shotgun like you could have. There's little things you go, I don't know.
I'm surprised that this is Artyom's first big book. It's like the book is amazingly art, and it's amazing. And I just feel like he's got a future. He's up and coming.
Yeah, I think he's also young, so he is literally up and coming. But yeah, it's his first. I mean, it's his first for sure ongoing, like multiple issue thing. I don't think even in Russia he was doing I think he has some like single issue stuff, but I don't think he's done any arcs at all. So yeah, we were lucky with Artyom. He's done good work. And Lee, obviously, Lee's a Hall of Famer when it comes to color. So they brought a really nice, unique aesthetic to the book, and God knows I appreciate it. So,
and obviously there's a whole conversation between I hate this place versus fuck this place, but we don't have to get into that too, because I feel like it's talked enough times. But I do like the actual font and design of the words at the top. I think it's attractive enough and clean enough.
I should be able to say who did that design. It's the Skybound in-house guy, and he's great. And I can't think of his name, and I'm very sorry. They're very good. They always do great work. They did all of our stuff. So good stuff.
Skybound.
Yeah, we want to call it F this place very badly, and I broke Skybound down into accepting that. I was like, this is the best. This is the tone for the book that I want. And then like, okay, well, we tried to come up with something. I'm like, this is the one. Like, okay, we're with you. We're on your back. And literally the moment like, we're sending it in, we're submitting it. We all immediately got an email back from Eric Stevenson. They're like, retailers hate this, and we're like, okay, we'll change it. Like that's all I need to hear. Like I didn't even think about it being on shelves. I just thought about this is the title that to me is what I would say if I was in a horror movie. And I
which they do say it. They say it in the first issue. They
say it in every one of the first 5 issues. And then Gabby at the end says, I hate this place. So she says the other title. I tried to keep that ongoing, but I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens in the second arc. It's not every issue. Like I was kind of planning on doing like a sort of Sergio Aragones Gru joke, in my horror book. Andreas
Juarez is the Skybound designer of the logo. So I found that in the
they're great. I'm pretty sure they do all that back matter design stuff for us too. I'm pretty sure.
I think it's a big thing. I'm a creative director by trade, so I do design work and graphic design. So I've always appreciated that stuff. But I've also seen this in the relation to having conversations with like Boom, people who have published books with Boom, and some of the other publishers where there's an in-house person helping with that. I think it's gone a long ways, and I feel like the way that the trade dress and everything looks helps the book look even better. It's the same thing I see sometimes with us. I work for a beer company, and when you have an in-house designer working on your design stuff, there's just something other polished about it that you don't get if you bring in someone else to do it from some other project too.
I think that's true. I think everyone's trying a lot harder now too. Like as we get farther away, deeper into the new millennium, I feel like because there's a point in time there when you kind of want everything to look uniform. It seemed like the industry wanted everything to look very uniform, but now they're doing all like the back cover for all those books like is like Gabby being touched by the ghost, and it's different colors, like
Yeah.
that sort of like let's do this thing that makes it interesting. It's like wasn't really going on, 3 or 4 years ago. I just think people are trying, like, it matters. And it's funny, it doesn't matter to me so much. I do think it's always nice, but the aforementioned Chris Schweitzer takes all that stuff very seriously. He's like, no, the book is a work of art. And to me, I'm like,
Mhm.
no, it's just a story. Like, it's just meant to entertain. But I have a great appreciation for those efforts for sure, because I see it and I go, oh yeah, this looks way nicer than it could have. If I did it, it wouldn't look this
Mhm.
good for sure, because I'm a moron. So
Well, the book's written really well, so that's all that matters on your end. Just
that's
keep
right.
writing well,
I'm
and that's what matters. And partnering
doing the
yourself up with
best I can.
other people that can do stuff, that's the best thing you can do. Like it's growth. It's growth as a person to have a team of people make these books
I
look
think
good.
I think it's a matter of like knowing your weaknesses. And I've never been. I went to when I went to school to be a fine artist. I was like, this is never going to work out. And I took a year of graphic design courses so I could be a graphic designer to have a job. And I ended up not even ever doing it. I did pre-press work. I did production art
Mm.
instead, which is graphic design without clients, which is great. Um, but I never even did any of that graphic design. So I'm not good at design. I'm not good at splash pages. I'm not good at hero shots. I'm not great at color. Like, you have to, if you know your shortcomings, then at least you know how to sort of optimize the book. So whenever I work with Schweitzer and he's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Just whatever you want, man. Like, whatever you want." I don't know. Like, I could suggest things, but why would I? I don't know. And
Well,
I try to live a life where if I don't have like an actual, I don't just go around making suggestions to people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
mhm.
I don't know. I don't know this one. Whatever you think's best. I don't know how to make that car work. The mechanic is there for that, and I trust the
Yes.
mechanic. So
Well, like I say, as long as you have trust and you have faith in the other people too. I mean, if you have someone you don't really trust or have faith in, it's a little harder to listen to what they have to say. But
yeah, so
I'm
far so good.
guessing you have pretty good trust in people who we've worked with so far. So then you have Where Monsters Lie. Then comes after that. How did Where Monsters Lie end up at Dark Horse? Like, did you just pitch Dark Horse for this one, or did you pitch it out to a couple different places?
Yeah, I'm going to pull the curtain back, but I'm not going to name any publishers.
Yeah.
After I Hate This Place, the publisher reached out to me, and they said, actually, probably after Six Sidekicks,
Mhm.
a publisher reached out to me, and they're like, "We'd really like something like Six Sidekicks," um, which is to me a multi-character, funny not funny book. Um, and I had gotten this idea for Where Monsters Lie while I was working on I Hate This Place, and I was really fixated on it. So I pitched this publisher that they clearly did not understand. They did not see it. They did not see it for what it was. And I think they were literally. I think their response was like, "Well, this wasn't. It wasn't like this isn't exactly what we're looking for." But I felt like that was the takeaway. Like, that's not what they were looking for. Um, and so at the same time, another publisher who I would have rather worked with than that first publisher was like, "Hey, we'd love to get a pitch from you." So I gave them Where Monsters Lie, because I'm like, this is the one. I'm so stoked on this book. I think it's going to be really good. I think it's going to be a really fun
Mhm.
book. And like, what more do I want than to put a good fun book out there? Um, and I think for them, and so you can't sort of disparage the second publisher. I think that they felt like very familiar characters, these archetypes, that was maybe it made them a little nervous uh, in terms of like legal purposes, right? Or maybe they felt like it was too satirical. I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe they didn't know my work. That's very possible. A lot of times publishers don't necessarily know your work, and they still want your work because your name has some buzz
Yeah.
to it. So at the time, I was like, well, I'm going to make this book no matter what. And I thought, well, I can always draw it and I'll just Kickstarter, because I've done that in the past. And I like Kickstarter, and I like doing Kickstarter. And then Image publishes the book, and I make like $17 from the Image side, which at least it exists in the library somewhere. And that's very exciting to me. And my friend Matt Kent, who's a big deal at Dark Horse, he has his own imprint over there, Flux House. Shout out to Flux House. He was like, "You should show it to Dark Horse. Show it to Dark Horse." And so I did. And they're like, "We'd love to do it." And originally they're like, "You're going to draw it, right?" And I'm like, "There's no way I'm going to draw it. I don't want to draw this book. I want it to be kind of scary." So yeah, Dark Horse was like all in on it. They've been great. They found me Peter, who's a pro's pro. Like, I I've been so, I hate collaboration so much, and I've been pretty lucky with everyone. But Peter Kowalski is a pro's pro. Um, so good at drawing what I wrote, so good at elevating it, so good at getting what's supposed to be happening. I really enjoyed working Peter, and I think he did. I say Peter, I don't know his name. Peter
Peter
Kowalski.
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, uh, he's amazing, and I love what he did on the page. And there's so many bits that I was like, man, I could never draw it. But he's way better than me. So like that's easy. He's been great. So yeah, I mean, Dark Horse has been great, man. We sold out. They got me great cover variant artists. They're like, who do you want to do a variant art? And I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, how about James Stocco? I was like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't know I could just name names. I thought you wanted me to find someone I knew. And then Tyler Crook, who I think is just
Yeah.
I think is a goat horror artist, and Fabio and David Rubin's his issue 4 is probably my favorite. It's so good. Like these great variant artists. I'm gonna be honest, working with Dark Horse has been great, and that sold out. Makes the issues have sold out makes it greater for me. Yeah, because that's all you want is for people to read your book, and it's been great, man. I'm really stoked to find the right home it should have been in, and hopefully there's more to come.
Yeah, and I mean Daniel, is it Shoban? I'm guessing that's his name, the
Shaban,
editor.
Shaban.
Yeah,
It's like Daniel
yeah,
Shaban.
yeah. Well, he's gonna be on the podcast in a couple episodes actually to talk about. So we'll have to like dive in to see how he likes the Where Monsters Lie's been doing over at
He
Dark
likes it a
Horse.
lot. He loves it.
But
Yeah,
and
I'm other than that one. Daniel's, he's the younger brother of a Pulitzer-winning author. Like, he knows a thing or two about writing.
he's been there for a long time.
I love it. Daniel's there's a lot of different kind of editors, and I hate notes. So I would prefer someone who's hands off as much as possible, because I feel like you don't need to middle with things. You don't need to middle manage things. And I think a lot of editors do. I think they feel like they're compelled to show we did something. Daniel's going to be like, that book was great because I had to do so little on it, which is what you want an editor to say. Lots of grammatical corrections because I'm bad at commas. But like we
But
didn't
that's why
have
there's
to
someone
redo.
there for you. That that's why again,
Thank
the
goodness.
team trust.
Listen, thank goodness. He can only say good things about that book. We made it so easy. We didn't have to change any pages. I think we did art changes on 2 panels. I think that's right. I think 2 panels. I was like, what if we did this different? And I'm not going to say like that's unheard of. And it was literally one of them was, can we just change this character's eyebrows in this panel? Because that'll solve the whole problem. Because if he just looked madder, like he looked happy. Like if he doesn't look happy, and whatever the other one was, I sincerely don't remember what it was. But I know that Peter was like, I'll change it. He's like, I'll just fix it. And he fixed it within an hour. And within an hour, the new page was up. And it's like priceless. Like, what more can you ask for? He's perfect. I really liked working with Peter. I'm going to work with him again. I have no doubts of that. He was just a dream to work with. And for this book, he was just able to capture the tone. Like, it's serious, but it's serious, it's dark, and it's awful. And some of the spooky stuff, I think a lot about. I think on page 2 or 3, Zell, who's sort of the old lady that runs this gated community for slasher monsters, has like poked a kid's eye out with a needle, and it's like
it's like the second page, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so gross. And I was like, God, why would Peter do that? And I looked and I wrote that, and it was so messed up when I saw it. I couldn't believe that I wrote someone to do that.
If you were expecting a funny book, if you were expecting a comedy, a straight up comedy from Kyle Starks, and you see the next page is a freaking person getting their eye poked.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is I think part of why Where Monsters Lie has had such a strong response is because it's really funny and it's really spooky. It's both of them, and a lot of that is because of Peter's aesthetics really are able to do both somehow. Yeah.
He did great on the Carmen line too. I don't know if you ever read the Carmen line. He released that over at Mad Cave recently, and that's where I first found out about Peter. And when
he's doing about 700 books, he's doing like 4 books at once right now. He's the busiest guy in comics,
which is everybody. But yeah, I feel like I say that to everybody. I'm like,
he's so busy. I was talking to an editor at another company, and they're like, "Oh, he's doing my book too." I'm like, "He's doing my book right now. Like, how's he doing?"
He's doing your book right now. And he's doing it well. So it's not even like it's like these people who are super busy like him. Like it's like he's super busy, but you wouldn't be able to tell that if you didn't know anything else. You'd be like, "This is the only book he's working on because he's doing such a good job on it."
Yeah, because the timing. If you look, he does like cross hatching, and like that's really time consuming. The colors, I think, it's funny because sometimes colors take away from like a lot of that effort. But he does like really serious cross hatching, and that's really time intensive. It's not like he's just like getting it out there. Man, he's so good. He adds stuff. He had like there's all these like skulls in the decor of like of Zell's like home, and there's one bit where I have a character hitting another character with a claw hammer, as you do, and he drew like a row of teeth sort of following the direction from where the hammer hits their face. I didn't write that. That's just good comic book storytelling. And he thought, like, what if I just put some messed up teeth, like a little? Do it, Peter. He's great. I love him. I love that book. I really, I got the last issue and I went, oh yeah, this is really good. Like it's so pleasing to be like in that moment. I wasn't delusional. Like I had a lot of fun. I think we all had a lot of fun, and it was really good. I'm really proud of that book. Ask Daniel if there's going to be more of it. Ask him see what he says.
Peter has a great job at doing skulls too. Like you mentioned skulls earlier. Like I feel like that is cover of issue 2. Or it's issue 2, with the skull and the ground and stuff like that. It's like it's a beautiful looking and it's such a eye catching design.
Issue 3 is Richard the Clown with a flamethrower.
Yeah,
it's like a wall of skulls, and apparently people are very uncomfortable by that cover. I've heard actually, it's again shout out to Peter. I've had every cover. Someone, not the second one so much, but for issue 1 and issue 3, people go, that cover makes me really uncomfortable, and I'm like, that's amazing. That's what we want.
Well, like horror comic books nowadays. I feel like I've had that conversation with horror, like traditional horror writers who've done it for years, and I'm like, you really can't make a scary comic book because one of the reasons why movies and things like haunted houses are scary is you can't immediately just stop it. Like you have to find the remote to turn it off or something like that, and the jump scares already happened or whatever. But if you're like about to get scared in a comic book, you can just close the comic book. Like you're done. Like you just stop reading. And there's something about that. So I feel like there's this uncomfortability part of it and eeriness that you have to, like, I get to feel like gross, but like feel off. And that's what it is. I feel like there is that aspect of it, and people are afraid of clowns, so that doesn't, that's a big thing. And skulls, I mean, that's a pretty good thing. Are any of these monsters that you've created, or I say monsters, but like monstrous people, based off of anybody? Do you have like serial killers in your mind that you loosely base these off of?
I mean, listen, for Where Monsters Lie, like they're clearly archetypes.
Yes.
There's no question. Like this character is vaguely. So I say this thing a lot. What I very much want to do, I love tropes. I love archetypes. I don't love satire. I don't like spoofs. I don't like homages. I like the idea of sort of subverting these sort of archetypes and tropes. But I want to make things that are very unique, that are also incredibly familiar. Because it's like, well, what's this book about? It's like, oh, it's about an ex-NBA player who finds out his dead mom lived next door to Dracula's or whatever. And it's like, that's so weird. But I want people to look through, like, oh no, this feels like something I've like. This doesn't feel weird. It feels familiar and safe, in terms of safe to consume. And so that's like very much like the great thing about these archetypes is like it's shorthand. Like it's not those characters, but you get the sense that I know where these characters are from. I know their history, right? If you see a murder clown in the comic book, you're like, oh, I know about murder clowns. Like they're trouble. If there's a puzzle man, if there's a puzzle bad guy, like you know what they've done in the time before you've seen them. So they're definitely intentionally archetyped, but not those characters. I don't think. Well, maybe Daniel Dawson, but he's a shape. They're all the vague shapes.
Yeah.
If you're a big quiet monster, they're all kind of the same. Like I can't help that. It's just a trope in horror stuff. But they all draw inspiration. But I tried to make them unique to me, but also feel familiar in a way where, like, listen, when Texas Chainsaw Man meets Freddy Man, or not Freddy, but Jason Man, like, don't you want to know what's going to happen when they fight? Like, I want to know. That's why I wrote the book, right?
Yeah.
Is I want to know, like, what are these solutions? Or what's these outcomes? I don't know why I said solutions. That's me as a writer. I'm always looking for solutions. But what is this outcome? So I wouldn't say I mean, clearly they draw from certain characters, but I tried to make them mixes and unique in their own way. Like the Saw Man is not the Saw Man at all. Like he's sort of hapless and pathetic. But he still sure loves murder. He sure still loves murdering everybody with puzzles. I don't think
it's a story that you had that serial killer, murderous monsters, but it's also a unique take on it. Whereas like you're not just writing a serial killer book. Yeah. You wrote a book about them all living in the same spot and trying to get through harmoniously through a talking about HOA fees or HOA problems.
Yeah. I really, I was watching. I love horror movies. I really enjoy horror movies, and I was just like, where did these guys go in between? Like, there's someplace. Chucky's someplace for 2 years in between the next movie. Like someone's paying for his cable. He's watching cable. his human lady friend has got to eat. You know what I mean? Like, how are they paying for that? And I just became like, I was like, that's really interesting. And just how Rutherford Ranch was, and I hate this place. I'm like, this is an interesting setting, but
Mhm.
like to me, that's just a setting. Like a setting doesn't, it's not a story, and I'm very interested in story
Mhm.
because like a setting's great, a cool character is great, but if the cool character doesn't do anything interesting or nothing interesting happens to them, you only get so far. Like it only you can only sort of ride that for so far. And I like stories. I like beginning, middles, and ends. And for me, it's like, well, what's the story? And it's like, well, what if a final girl found them and wanted their revenge? And I was like, well, okay, no, I like that. But like, how do I make that interesting? And it's like, well, what if that final girl was basically Batman if his parents were killed by, Jason
Yeah.
instead of Joe Chill? And I'm like, no, like that's really interesting to me. And Where Monsters Lie, it poses a lot like who's really the monster. Like it wants because you like these guys, you like these awful murderous killers. It's like they are the bad guys, right? Well, I don't know. This good guy who showed up is killing everyone just like
Yes.
they killed everyone. And I think that sort of subtext is really interesting to me, and what the resolution to that is, what the outcome is really interesting to me. And I'm really proud of that. I'm glad it's selling out. I really am because it means people are enjoying it enough to consume it. Um, I love all those characters. God, Shutter, buy these characters from me. Let's make
I think it'd be
12 movies. Yeah,
what you should do is a like a 12 episode, 10 episode series that has a culmination couple of movies, so you can get to know each
yeah,
character
that's what
maybe,
we want.
or like
Yeah, just the Where Monsters Lie cinematic universe, the
yes.
WMLUCU. That's what we want. No, I mean, I by no means do I make it. I don't make
Yes.
anything for that function, but I was like, man, I love these characters, and I think of there's a lot of prequels we could do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe if it keeps selling out really well, Dark Horse will let me do like a bunch of one shots, or like it'll be like uh what's Jeff Lemire's thing? Black some Hammer. It'll be like
Yeah.
Black Hammer, but with idiotic moron serial killers
So
monsters.
I mean, it's a 4 issue series. Was it pitched as a 4 issue series? Was it because it is also seemed like we're now in that section of time where it used to be 5 issues as a mini series, and now it
Yeah.
seems like a lot more people are doing 4.
Yeah, it used to be six, and now there's five.
Yeah.
When I did 5 issues of Assassination, I think they were kind of miffed at me. When I did 5 issues of I hate this place, they were kind of miffed at me that it wasn't six. But then when we did Art Two, I was like six, right? They're like absolutely not. Like, they're like we're not doing that anymore. And I think I mean Matt Kent's doing 3 issue things now, which I
Yeah.
think is it psychologically is very
Yeah.
upsetting to me because I real estate's so important, and there's certainly a way like at one point in time I would have said there's no way I could tell a story under 180 pages. I just couldn't imagine the way that because I'm very pacing heavy, like beats and pacing, and things require setups, and I like character moments. I really like just two characters sort of exposing something about themselves in the story as they interact. That's something I really enjoy. But that's panels, like that's panels because I want to back and forth. I haven't mastered uh like traditional comic talking where people sort of speak in monologues at each
Yeah.
other to sort of cover a lot of exposition. I like my stuff to be very naturalistic, or to in a way a version of naturalistic where it feels like if you and a friend read those pages out, you'd be like, that's how people talk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Well, I
the
mean, you
so
have in your book. Was it? I'm looking at the pages right now. Like, there's at least one, two, three, like 3 or 4 pages in a row in issue 1 of Where Monsters Lie. Where was it? Wyatt and what's the older
Zell,
lady's
yeah,
name? Yeah, they're just walking,
Zell.
having conversation. You wouldn't be able to do that if it's a 3 issue series.
It would be tougher.
That would be like a two
It'd be
panel thing
tougher.
of them, like
You don't get the same effect of it.
no.
And even through the whole thing, and I do that with fights too. I mean, in many ways, for Monsters Light, 2, 3, and 4 are fights. It's an evening happening that's just sort of nonstop action. And if you can't and some of it is a little truncated. If I'm gonna be honest, like some of it, I wish I had one more page for. But what can you do?
Yeah.
But I like fights. I like fights to be fights. I like conversations. I like character moments to be character moments. And comedy and horror both require pacing in a way that you want to set up a moment to feel like you want tension leading up to a bad moment, or you want humor to lead up to a punchline, right? Like it requires a lot of pacing. So as they get shorter, I get more and more anxious because I feel like I just again the last year and a half have gotten comfortable with the idea of 4 issues because
Mm-hmm.
it's really not very much. But um, I'm getting I'm I you don't I never want to set myself up mentally where I won't get enough pages to do the story I want to do. So like I'm trying not to think about 6 issue stories, which sucks because I want to do.
Well, I mean,
You would
Peacemaker's gonna
like
be
for
6 issues, right?
yeah, Peacemaker's going to be 6, but you want to sort of be like, well, if it's a hit, I want to be able to do
Yeah.
12, but it's like that would be really hard for me to date because I mean, like I said, I could have done Rock Candy Mountain for a long time. I knew I would not. I had a beginning, middle, and end, and I 100% did that. But if after if you like say issue 4, it was a huge success, and I'm selling 50,000 copies, I could have stretched it out. I could have figured out a way to stretch it out for 12 more issues. But like, and I hate this place too. I hate this place originally was supposed to be an ongoing, and just comics changed. Like the market changed. What is considered successful enough for a publisher to keep doing? It's like I get that. How many pages? Like that's why pages keep getting shorter and smaller and smaller. I'm sure someone's going to figure out a solution to this, or maybe we'll go back to getting a lot of people reading comics again, where
Yeah.
it's less of an issue. That'd be the hope, obviously. But so yeah, I'm trying not to. So now it's like I have a meeting tomorrow where we're doing they call it a kickoff. I don't know what that means. We're going to talk about this new series, which is approved. I think we have an artist. I have no idea how many issues it is. If they say 5, I think it maybe be 1 issue too long because I thought about it. I thought about like in and outs, and my preference is 180 pages, but now you're talking about 80 pages. You know what I mean? That's a huge difference. So I'm wrapping my head around it because I'd rather be able to make the stories that I want to make than be disappointed I can't make certain stories because of reality.
I mean,
3 issues though.
Yeah, no. The only time I've seen 3 issues that I feel like it's going to be done well is I talked to Cullen Bunn, and Cullen Bunn has a book, Lamentation over at Oni Press that is 3 issues, but it's 3 double issues. So it's like that's basically 6 issues at that point. Then, so it's not
but
an
it's
actual
also a
$3
book.
series. Yeah, it's
People
like
are going to spend
$7.99,
$10 per book.
no.
It's tough. All that stuff's tough. I'm glad I don't have to do they're not up to me, right?
Well, if you think about it, it's an $8 or $7.99, $6.99. I think it's $6.99. And I'm like, it's actually cheaper to buy these 2 issues this way because that's only like what $3.50 a book instead of $3.99. And so I was like, that's actually a better deal for 3 $6.99 issues than it is to buy 3.99 issues.
In theory, yes.
Yeah. But like people don't see that also. You see sticker shock when you go in the shop and you're like, I'm expecting $3.99 in a book, $4.99 a book, and it says $6 or $7.99. It just throws you off too. It's a different.
I think it's because like for that Cullen's gonna get the people who love his work. They're gonna buy it no matter what. Obviously, the other people are walking in and they're like, I can get 5 comics today. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I want this, but that means I can only get 4 comics.
Yep.
All that stuff matters. And it's like, what if there's variant covers you want? Oh my goodness! Like now you can only get 2 comics. Like that's not the experience you want.
No,
it's tough, man. The whole industry is tough.
I mean, you went from I Hate This Place to Where Monsters Lie. Those 2 creator-owned titles at 2 different publishers. There's great creative teams on those. Those are hits in my mind as well as a lot of other people's minds, obviously, because they're selling well. Is now you're going back into the realm of IP, where I mean, you obviously were Rick and Morty for a while, and then now you're going to be doing the Peacemaker series. It's a weird IP though. It's an IP that's like fringe IP, if that makes any sense. Like you're not going in to write Batman or Superman or
no.
You're going to write something that has probably a little bit more of a playground to play in, like a little bit more freedom, right? I mean, I'm guessing.
Well, that's interesting, probably, but to me, when they reached out, I was like, well, this is what I should be doing anyway. Like, this is the book, because when I saw that TV series, when I saw the James Gunn TV series, and I really enjoyed it. It was someone else tweeted, they're like, why isn't Kyle Starks doing a Peacemaker series? and I've not really considered the big 2. I say the big 2. I think everyone does, right? Yeah. Because like the way that I tell stories, they're very character driven and they're beginning, middle, and ends, and it's a different muscle to even think about those books. And also it's like with all due respect, like I don't love those characters like I did when I was a kid and I thought the Justice League Detroit was good. You know what I mean? I just don't I'm so far away and I'm so adult and I've been making my own characters in my own world. But that being said, so when they said it, I'm like, man, I would kill that book. I would, because that book is what I've done. I Killed Them All, Sex Castle, Rock Candy Mountain to a degree, Assassination. It's big, dumb, violent movies that have a lot more going on, and in many ways, Rick and Morty is the same way too. It seems like it's a big, dumb, stupid action thing, but there's so much. The emotional stuff is so much more interesting to me, And for Peacemaker and that character's sort of emotional growth in that series was like the best part. Like, yes, he definitely fights, like a giant space cow at one point, but his emotional growth through that is so much more interesting than anything else to me. And so like I was like, oh, this is my type of character. They're big, dumb, and violent, so I get to do big, dumb action movie stuff, which I love. And I get to have this character have like an emotional journey that's really compelling. Because that's for me, right? I love big, dumb action. I could do it all day, but like what makes me want to stick with it is like, well, what more is going on? So, and I'm quoting other people, but they're like, this is perfect casting. And I think with Steve Pugh also, I don't think you could ask for, because I said, we want to look like a superhero book. We don't want people to look at it and go, oh, it's really cartoony. You want people like, oh, it's Peacemaker, the superhero book. But also for that artist to 100% get how comedy works. And Steve Pugh, obviously, is the guy for that. You want to, and then Erica, I think Erica's there too, but we got crap for Erica's art, which because it's a ridiculous world that makes no sense. Like Erica's not one of the 3 best cartoonists in the business, but so like I couldn't. I think the casting, like shout out to those editors, Matt Levine and Chris Conroy. Like obviously, like I don't think you could have picked a better choice. So they like, did I get to do whatever I wanted? Well, what I really wanted was to give people more of that show because that's what they love and that's what I love. And because it was similar to my voice, albeit much better. He's James Gunn. He's not in an unfinished basement doing podcasts. He probably has a podcast interview room that has like gold lions in it. You know what I mean? Like
he walks in, it's already set up for him. He walks in, sits down, speaks, gets up, and leaves. Doesn't have to do anything.
He's got a ring light instead of like a desk lamp pointed at my TV that's too close to me. Like, but he does the thing that I do, which is like let's find the interesting. Let's tell a story, throw a bunch of characters in it, make the characters interesting. Like the characters being interesting adds to the story. They exist for the story, right? So yeah, really that was my endeavor was two parts. One, to give people more of that show because that's what DC should have been doing. That's what it's so dumb. It's not dumb, but it's the smart thing to do, right? Like there should be this thing. People love that show because it was great. The comic should be like, here's more of that thing you love. It's great. And that was my number one. Number one was that. Number 2 was, if this is my only DC thing, what can I put in here that this might be my only shot. So certainly I asked for certain characters and I got all of them. I got all the characters I wanted. That, if I don't ever do it, like at least I have this. It's like, well, I've got that character in there. I got that character in there.
But the real question is Peacemaker gonna be still singing into a vibrator at all in this one?
He will not be. And I'll be honest, like a lot of the sexuality stuff, and
probably couldn't do
because no, I could have. Oh. But I wish I had more real estate to sort of lean into that, to where it was a little bit more. The thing is, like, he's so juvenile. Some of it is like, well, it's a fine because of his how juvenile he is. Whenever you sort of deal with sexual stuff, it's funnier on camera than it is in a comic. And it's a fine line between crossing not being funny at all and just being sort of gross. And so I definitely didn't deal with his sexuality, which I think is very important. Are like a lot of sort of like, there's dick jokes in there, but not as many as you'd think, right? And that's probably one of my regrets. That's one of my regrets of the book is like, it doesn't lean into any of that stuff as far as it should, but I only have so many pages, you know what I mean? And I more than anything want to be like, it's going to be a big dumb version. It's a big dumb fun book. That's my thing. It's going to be a big dumb fun book. And by the time you're like, oh man, this is great. More Peacemaker. I'm so happy. This character is great. Someone in one of my last interviews is like, well, what do you hope comes out of this? And I'm like that this is the character, right? Like this character exists. It's not my character. It's James Gunn's character.
Yeah.
But like he doesn't turn into low hanging fruit because I think it's so easy to do. Whereas you have a big dumb juvenile guy though, who understands other people exist, who understands other people have their own ways of living, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's like so. It's such a modern. And I say I'm old. I'm 46, but to me, it's like that's such a modern character to be like I'm who I am, and I might be a little problematic, and I know that. I'm not stoked about it, but also like I see other people have challenges, and I'm okay with that. Like it's so interesting to me. So that that's where my hope is like that James Kent character becomes not low hanging fruit because that's what comedy. I'm doing air quotes. I don't know if I'm on camera or not.
Yeah,
it's okay. Comedy characters when are so quickly turned into low hanging fruit, and it kills them. It sucks everything out. Certainly, there's some characters that have sort of avoided or survived that. But I hope that doesn't happen to Peacemaker. I think he's a really interesting character, and I had a lot of fun, and I think people have a lot of fun reading the book, which is really the most important thing.
Exactly. And you want people to read your book, but like the I loved the Peacemaker TV show. I'm not a huge DC comic book fan at all. Like I just like for me to message my LCS and say, hey, can you make sure that Peacemaker tries hard is on my pull list for May 2nd or May 3rd when I go pick up my books. He was like, are you okay? Are you feeling okay over there? Like, what's going on over here? And here's the truth.
It's Peacemaker.
It is. It's also DC Black Label. So it's like, he's like, it's still not technically DC. Like, it's DC. Technically, you're not buying a Superman or Batman book. I'm like, I don't know, but maybe one of these days, if this is small enough, I like Peacemaker. I like your work. So put it together, get it over there. And if that ends up making me fall in love with another thing at DC in the future, maybe they'll get some more of my pull list selections. But as of right now, I'm like, the James Gunn version of Peacemaker, if that's what's going to be similar to, and it's your writing, you got me hooked. You got me buying it. So there you go.
That's so kind of you. Because that's what we're hoping for, right? And again, I hope, like, I hate this place. People go, I really like Peacemaker. I'm going to check out Rock Candy Mountain, or I'm going to check out Assassination, or Six Sidekicks, which is great, or Mars Attacks, which I think is weirdly old head. I mean, I just want people to read all my stuff, and not because I'll make money, because I won't make that. You'll be surprised. It's not that much.
But you put a lot of work into it, and you put a lot of work and effort into it, and you told stories that you wanted to tell, so you want to share it. You're not writing books and like putting them on your shelf so no one, your journals, so no one sees them ever. You're doing this not because you're making money on it, because obviously there's not a ton of money in comic books, but the idea you're doing it to share your story with someone else.
Yeah, I just like to tell stories. I like to entertain people, and I think Peacemaker is going to be very, because again, you're coming from a place of familiarity too. That just makes it funnier, I think. It just makes it funnier when you sort of know what you're getting into. I'm real proud of that book, too. CP is doing great work.
And number 2 has a Die Hard 2 variant cover, by the way, too.
Every issue has a movie variant cover, has a movie style. It's the B cover, I think. And they sent it to me, and I was like, can I write the taglines? Can I write the tagline for all 6 of these? And so 2 through 6, because they're like, Peacemaker tries hard 2. It's like Peacemaker tries even harder or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I can't remember what I wrote, so I hope they're still funny. At the time I wrote them, I thought they were very funny. So yeah, I got to write the taglines for those. Also, those Chris Anka covers, all the variant covers are also insane, which circles back around to Where Monsters Lie, because like, oh, Dan, I love Dan Hip. Dan Hip's one of my favorite artists and designers. And they're like, oh, we got Dan Hip to do a Peacemaker. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm only playing Marvel Snap because Dan Hip was doing cards for it. So like, he did a variant cover.
I just recently got into Marvel Snap, so
good luck with doing anything for the rest of your time.
Yeah, but like, I had to turn the alerts off. Now I'm like, I'll do it when I have time to do it. Dude, they need to make it into a real card game. It's what they need to do. But
don't give them ideas. How would the math on that? Imagine trying to do the math for that card game.
They do something. I mean, I watch people play Pokemon and they play other stuff at the comic book shop, and I'm just like, they put like dice on things and things like that. There's a way to do it, but
it's too much. You can do that Black Panther Wong Shuri thing. It had like 1 billion points, and like it's just like the game.
Well, I feel like the locations wouldn't have like the effects maybe that they'd have on the game with the cards themselves. Like
I'm sure they can figure it out. I'm sure that game's. I'm sure it's popular enough that they're trying to figure it out right now. So, but I love Dan Hip. Chris Anka did all those covers, and then they did the movie treatments, which I think they're so cool. I just think they're so cool looking. I think issue 4, I just got Chris Anka's cover for, and it's so amazing.
I was looking at, where am I at? There's a couple different cool ones. There's a bunch of them. The 25 variants or 25 variants are pretty dope.
Yeah, that's Dan Hip, and there's like the foil one. There's a foil one that looks very 90s, which I'm way into. I really wanted Kevin McGuire to do a cover. I'm not for sure if they ever got that. I would love like a Justice League International style cover, you know. So yeah, I mean, we've been real lucky. I've been real lucky. I'm having a great year. I'm really loving it.
I think you're good books out,
and people are enjoying them, and I'm
Kyle Starks it's a household name now, right?
Oh, dude, it's up and comer, but I'll take it. Up and comer, and eventually I'll just be there.
It's Kyle Stank, isn't it? Like Tony Stark, Kyle Stank.
Sometimes it's not right, but that I get it. Names are hard.
But yeah, so
names are hard.
I think it's great. I think you're having a great year. I think I Hate This Place is absolutely wonderful. I am a sucker for the variant cover. I'm a big Scotty Young fan, so obviously I have a love for I hate /fuck stuff.
Yeah. And also, I wish someone would have really reminded me. Like they would have been like, because I would have called it "We Hate This Place." You know what I mean? Like, come on, we could have
There's
changed it
two
up a
main
little
characters.
bit.
At least like you couldn't do that with I Hate Fairyland because it's just Gert. So you can't say
Yeah,
we because it's just Gert, but there is two characters in this thing. So you could have easily done that and say
I could
we.
have. I
But you
wish
know what?
someone would have made that suggestion, but so instead, me and Scotty have like the shared
I feel
I
like
hate / fuck this universe. You know,
I think either both at Image. I think there's a one shot crossover that needs to happen. That's what I think needs to
I'll
happen.
send him a DM. We'll
He's
see.
well, he's gonna be
Put
on.
on
He's on the
Substack.
next episode. So Scotty's
Oh,
on the next episode. Do you want me to bring it up?
yeah, bring him up how bad I feel about it. I think we
It's
talked.
funny.
About
I
it
could bring you
before.
up in 3 different episodes. This is episode number 100 for our podcast. First of all,
What?
so,
The century, man.
yes, right
The
here.
century,
That's,
man.
you know, and then the next episode is 101, which is Scotty Young, and then one after that is Daniel. So we got.
Yeah,
I can bring up
that's
in
a
all
good run.
three episodes in a
Why
row. I
not?
can bring up Kyle Stark's name, right?
Let's do it.
But you're the only one out of all of them I probably would be able to say we could talk basketball for hours with. So I think that's one of those. That's one of those we're saying. What I want to do is David Harper, you, me, and you ever Trey Steen, who wrote a comic book for Vault.
I know Trey.
He the four of us should do something once sometime and just like piss off all the non-basketball fans on one of our, like I said, I would rather not do it on David's. David's is more of a respectful podcast than mine is. To do it like on here and just be like, let's just talk basketball the entire time instead of freaking comic books.
If you find any Kyle Starks interview on Sketch, the last easily 30 minutes of it is us talking basketball. And he's a Pacers guy in Alaska, which it doesn't make sense to be a Pacers fan anywhere. But I live in Indiana, and I was a longtime Knicks fan, so I hate the Pacers. But now I'm a Celtics guy because of Brad Stevens. My wife went to Butler before Butler was anything.
There you go. Yeah.
So, and as a Knicks fan, Butler was the only good thing that ever happened to me for many years since 1998. So we switched to the Celtics. But yeah, I would talk. We ruined. I'm sure there's like two things. There's two subjects that people like to talk to me about that we try to save for the end because I know people are just it's wrestling, it's pro wrestling, and it's basketball because I will tangent hard on both because I love them. But yeah,
I said that, but I was like, I told David, I was like, David, we could do it on here so you don't ruin your fan base. Like they can decide to listen or they can decide not to listen. But I've always wanted to do like some sort of like casting, either like a complicated, some sort of crossover, so you can make it comic book related. So it's like casting comic book characters to play basketball characters in a movie of some sort, like Stiltman, which is sort of another David Harper reference of like could be like KD.
Who's the comic book version of Steph Curry?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Those kind of things would be kind of fun. So it'd be a fun little way to build it in there and have it be some sort of thing. We could do drafts of some sort or something. But I was like, you could make it comic book related, but there's only a few people in my life, even in like my wife doesn't like basketball.
More than you think. There's more than you think.
The comic book store, me bringing up basketball is not a very favorite thing. So I usually have to talk other stuff. But yeah, it's one of those weird things. But yeah, so you got 3 books coming out the same week, May 2nd, May 3rd. You have I Hate This Place number 8. You got Where Monsters Lie number 4, and then Peacemaker Tries Hard number 1, all coming out in the same week. But then I Hate This Place has 2 more issues after that, right? 9 and 10. That's June and July,
and then 5 more issues. So it's 3 more months of me taking away the first day of the comic book month. I'm okay with it though. 3 on one day. I didn't think that was how it was. I thought Where Monsters Lie ended right before, but I'll take it. I'll take triple. It's been double Kyle Wednesday for 3 months, and I will take triple Kyle.
We'll see. It's 2. It's 1 finale. It's 1 not finale and 1
start.
So like it's a mixture of everything.
Day.
Yeah,
and free comic book day. Because I'm just thinking like I'm doing a signing at Challengers in Chicago.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking like how hectic that might be for me, like because it's kind of the release. It's like the signing release party also for Peacemaker, which I already thought it was going to be a lot. But I forgot how it's going to be now. The last issue Where Monsters Lie, it's going to be a lot. It could be a whole lot for Kyle.
Yeah,
but I'm excited about it. It's better. Like I said, how'd I start it? It's better to be busy. It's better to be busy.
Absolutely. And you know what? You got to come to Maine at some point. You got to come up to Maine. We have 2 comic conventions here in Maine.
I'd love to. Tell them to bring me up.
Yeah, and we'll have you.
I get asked literally every year. They're like, "Are you coming to the Northeast?" And I'm like, "Probably New York Comic Con." Like, I'd love to do what's the show in Connecticut? Fantasticon?
Terrificon?
Terrificon. Like there's a bunch, but it's like, listen, if they don't bring me out, like if they don't reach out to me, like I don't have any control over that. Like otherwise I keep doing, the same shows every year because I love them. Like I like doing the shows I do. I'd love to do more shows. I only get out to Oregon, once every 4 years,
Yeah.
or like I don't have any control over that. I mean, I guess I could ask, but it's like,
You're in a good
you know,
spot too for most conventions in the country, meaning that if someone's going to fly you out, you're not across the country.
yes,
So
yeah,
you're like in the middle. So like you can go anywhere
yeah, it's not too bad.
fairly
But those
inexpensive.
flights are terrible again. They cost a lot for some reason again,
Yeah, I
inexplicably.
know.
No one's
It's
flying, but flight costs are up. So
which is kind of funny though. Like a lot of like convention, like I'm friends with the people who run the conventions here in Maine, and I'm like, they're like, honestly, it's not like flights will pay for people's flights. It's not an issue. It's like when an artist asks for $10,000-$15,000 to come, that's when they're having
sure.
trouble with it because they
Well,
just can't afford to
you
do
tell
that.
them,
So
Kyle doesn't ask for anything this
$15.
presently. He doesn't ask for anything. Listen, here's the thing: if someone, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
here's the thing, there's exceptions because sometimes, like, a certain convention is wanting me to do a couple shows, and it's like sometimes it's an imposition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like the imposition requires more. But if someone in my opinion, if someone flies you out, puts you up,
Yeah.
it's all profit, right? It's all
Yeah.
profit.
Didn't
So
cost
you
you
just
anything
hope
to
for a
go.
good, yeah. And so I'm with Comic Sketch Art, and they're gonna be like, don't say that. But if it's not, the thing is, like, if I'm going to charge, is either because my time is worth more, which is not today. I'm doing a 1 day show next weekend because a retailer puts it on. It's in Indiana, so it's like a short
Yeah.
drive. Will I make enough money to justify the time in 2023? No, I will not. But if you're talking about a 3 day show, I probably
Yeah.
will. If I don't have to be in a car for 4 or 5 hours, and all that stuff's complicated, but it is reaching a point where now I'm writing 3 books and I'm
Yeah.
writing 4 books. Well, then it's like, well, how many pages am I not getting to do because I'm away versus how much I make at those shows, and it's all complicated. Everything
Well,
in
that's
the
what I talk
comics
to
is
people. It's like I
complicated.
said, all of us, like people talk to this convention, like, why aren't you getting more creators? Or talk to a creator, why aren't you going to more conventions? And I think what people don't realize is if you work a 40-hour week job, for an example, like if I work 40 hours at my other job and then that weekend or every weekend and Friday, I'm going, to another place for 3 days over the
Yeah,
weekend and then going back to
more
work,
of your job.
and you're doing your
It's
job
tough.
for 7 days in a week, or you're taking time off in the middle of the week because you're working that weekend, but you're not writing the pages that you need to write or draw the pages that you need to draw, and so on and so
Yeah,
forth. So it's just a lot
it's
more
tough.
than people understand. It's a little bit easier for someone who, like, I don't say easier, but like I'm going to a convention this weekend in New Hampshire, and it's a comic show. So it's basically just comic creators. There's no celebrities.
Yeah, we
It's
like
just
that.
Jim Starlin is the celebrity. I'm like, that's to me, like Jim Starlin, the
Yeah,
celebrity.
I
Awesome.
just saw Jim a couple weeks ago.
He's great. I have a Infinity Gauntlet signed by him too, and so I had the one behind me over here is by Perez.
Sure.
But like
Right.
which one of the most favorite people I've ever met in my entire life was George Perez. But another story for another day.
Sure.
Was that there's just creators there, and it's like, but the people that are there, a lot of them, like Jim Starlin, for example, that's what he's doing. I mean, he's writing that. He wrote Order in Chaos or whatever that book he has right now out at Dark Horse, Order and Outrage, but he's like, most of what he's doing is just conventions and things like that. Like at some point in your life, if that's what you're doing, then you can do them every weekend. But if you're not writing, if you're writing books or drawing books in the middle of the week, it is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, or you have kids. I mean, a lot of those guys don't have teenagers.
They have kids. If they have kids, they're like well older.
Yeah, so
they're not
tough finding
teenagers.
But also, I will say that all that stuff. There's no PR in comics. There's no marketing in comics. All there is me tweeting, me talking to you, and whoever your group of people is. Hopefully, catch on in some way. There's me tweeting to people who already follow me. There's previews, which is useless as PR. There's me doing these interviews, which is why I always do them if I can. And there's me going to shows or going to me talking to retailers in some way. That's all there is. And so it's like when I get offered to do a show, and if I'm being flown out and put up, certainly I get to promote me, like, because that's in many ways what it is like me trying to sell people on me. It's like, well, that's tough, but it's like you have to find this new audience. And if I can go to the show and sell 4 copies of 6 Sidekicks to someone who clearly didn't have 4 copies, it's like I made another fan. One of those people is going to be a fan, if not all. And
I think we live in a world too. You mentioned it earlier, and just to circle back on it, was the fact that like Kyle Stark's fan. Like I think there's a difference. Like it's a small weird gap that we've had. That back in the '90s, you mentioned the comic book, there was like people who followed a certain artist or certain creator at some point, or early 90s, 2000. I think now we're back into that time where we mentioned James Tynion off air, but like there's people who just read his books because they're his books. Like it's
for
just
sure.
I think that's what happened with. I think there's people out there who are going to be Kyle Stark's fans forever because of Six Sidekicks or
Man,
Rick and
I
Morty
hope so.
or I Hate This Place.
Yeah,
And that is like they go and they don't care what you're writing. They may be
I
not
hope
be a
so.
DC fan, but they're gonna buy Peacemaker because you wrote it, kind of thing. So
It's fun. It's a lot of those people are like, who are big fans. They've never read Rick and Morty, and I don't blame them that. Like, but I do hope they read Peacemaker because I think they will like it.
mhm.
And whatever next is, I think whatever next they're gonna like. That's what we're hoping. Yeah, we're just trying to build fans. That's all we can do because I just want stuff to be read, and I want to make people happy, even if sometimes I make them cry or scared. I just want to entertain them for 45 minutes or however long. It's a small. Life is hard, man. It's not getting any less hard, and if someone can take 15 minutes that I did, and like that was worth my time. Like that was entertaining. Man, I'm doing my job, and I'm trying real hard. I'm trying real hard to only give those moments.
You're doing a great job. Don't like just pat
Thanks,
yourself on the
man.
back there right there. So I don't want to take the rest of this time. We're going to finish up here, but I don't want to do a David Harper here and just talk basketball for the rest of it. But do the Celtics have a shot?
I think they have a shot. I can't this year. I have no touch for it. In the past I could be like, listen. I've watched them crumble, even as they were great last year and good this year. Mostly Tatum's gotten better. I could go on at length. I think they have a shot, but I think maybe anyone has a shot this year. I don't think there's a dominant team, and if it is, it's probably Milwaukee. I like who's going to come out of the West. I have no idea.
Well, we're one of the only teams. The Celtics are one of the only teams not swinging punches at each other right now, so it's okay. There's like multiple teams that swung punches at each other over the weekend.
It's been rough for a lot of dudes. I think the Celtics have so much trouble with height, and there's a lot of tall teams. Like for whatever reason, whenever you get a tall team, they really just fall apart. And they're young. Like as good as they are, they're very, very young, and they play. You can see mentally the lack of veteran leadership affects them. So I would love to see them in the finals again. Even if they don't win, I watched the Knicks for so many 2 decades. You know what I mean? And like only one of those decades was good. The other decade was miserable. It was upsettingly miserable constantly. So to see a team like when we came in, like it was a pretty nice little team. We had Isaiah Thomas still. It was a nice little team, and Marcus Smart's I have. Let's see if I can. Marcus Smart's on the shelf over here that my wife got me for Christmas. He's my favorite. He's my second favorite player all time. I love him.
Yeah, I think he's tenacious.
He does.
They're
He
fun.
does
It's a fun team to
watch.
watch. I'm excited just because like more basketball because they're a fun team to watch. So that's my biggest thing. Is like
we've reached the point where we're like basketball's almost over, and me and my wife are sad about it because like I stopped working at 7. Yeah. I work all day and I stop and we'll watch basketball, and it's funny. It'll probably be a little bit better this year than it was last year because the Celtics were so good this year. Normally we would watch 3 games a night, and the nights that the Celtics wouldn't play, like we have a team. When Russell was in Washington, sorry everyone who hates basketball. When Russ was in the Wizards, we watched that Wizards team when they played. Sacramento before they signed, before Vlade came in and Luke Walt came in. That team, that specific team, that year was such a joy to watch. Usually we have these other teams, but the Celtics were so good this year. We didn't need to watch another team to see something, someone be explosive, or to see a well-run offense. So we watched less basketball this year than we've ever watched in years. So it might be a little bit less hurtful when the season ends, but we're both like, what are we going to do? Like, what are you going to watch? It's over. We just wait because it's a special time for us. I do think, I don't know, man, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I think they have a shot. Like if they had a shot last year, they have a shot this year. That's my thing. It's like
everyone right now is saying, because we're gonna play Miami in the first round, almost assuredly, right? And like, that'll be a cakewalk. I'm like, guys, Miami, Bam Adebayo owns the Celtics. He's tall and he's long, which we hate, and he just I don't know what it is. We're way more finessey than we should be, and if you put bodies on us, it's bad. I do think that we win. Do we beat Milwaukee? They're so tall, and we can't. It's tough.
It's a coin flip. It's like one of those things you see a game, you're like, oh my gosh, the Celtics look so good against Milwaukee, and then there's a game where you're just like they couldn't even. It just
depends. It just depends on how focused Tatum is that game. It depends on how focused everybody is. It'll be interesting because I have no idea who's coming out of the West. There's not as many bad guy teams as there usually is. So like most of the work, because that's what I think we have good guy. There's good guy teams. There's bad guy teams, and basically, when Harden was in Houston, they were a bad guy team. Sixers are always a bad guy team. They will always be that way. Both LA teams are bad guy teams. And that's kind of it right now. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn was a bad guy team until this year. Now I'm rooting for Brooklyn, even though I think like they're going to get their butts handed to them by somebody. I think. But like as long as it's not Philly, as long as it's not LA team who wins, I don't give a shit. It'll be good. I'm here for. My wife doesn't like Milwaukee, but I like Milwaukee. I think Giannis should be MVP. I think the fact that people are maybe going to give it to Embiid is so dumb. For what? For having the third best team again. Like congratulations for being nothing. Like it's such a bad argument. Like I know you don't want to give it. You know what? Honestly, I hope they don't give the MVP to Joker, and I hope Denver wins the whole thing. I really like that would be another good story. Even if Denver just makes it to the finals and loses to the Celtics, that's a great story because like, come on, guys, you should just give like Embiid doesn't make any sense because he scored a lot. Like, Tatum is.
I've never been an Embiid fan in the first place. So
no one has. Well, if you're a Celtics fan, you can't. But Tatum is the first Celtic history to average 30 points a game. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that more interesting than this guy? Anyway, whatever. I don't think Tatum should be MVP at all. But it's the argument. There's always these arguments. This is the year that I'm like the MVP is worthless. Like it means nothing.
No. Well, I think they're changing that too. Like I think there's a big thing with the whole like 65 games thing and all that stuff. I think there's a little bit of a cool in the CBA changes of that. Looking forward to that change because
I don't know if 65 is the right number, but I'm for it. I'm for it. So.
Right, we'll see.
All right, sorry everyone. Basketball. Hey,
that's fine. I just didn't want to also take up all your time in the world. You have to get back to work.
I could talk for hours. Hours.
That's what I was saying. But if we got on here and actually had people who were willing to talk about this and had some knowledge on it, I'm sure. I mean, I don't want to bring it up to David right now. He's in Paris or something like that right now. So like,
I think so. Yeah.
He's have fun on your vacation, but I think there's at some point, maybe that's how we get our summer basketball fix. Just talking about basketball and having people annoyed with it.
One year I had a fancy basketball league that was all comic book players or comic book people. And I don't think I can't remember. There's one other person who was competitive. I won. I didn't want to brag. I always win. No, that's not true. I mostly win. There's one other person who was competitive, and it might have been David, but I think David maybe wasn't it. So I just can't remember who it was, which is a bad. But like there are dudes, but a lot of them are just like guys who just like to talk. Like they don't.
Yeah.
And like I'm as cerebral as you can be watching basketball and not being in a different fandom. You know what I mean? Like but yeah, dude, I'm so stoked and I do have to do shows. I'm doing shows this weekend and next weekend. That I'm gonna miss games, obviously. But this is to me, these 40 days, 40 nights, which I think is longer now because of the play-ins. Those 40 days, 40 nights, that's my March Madness. And I love March Madness. But this is the one I actually want to watch. I want to watch 3 games with my wife. And then once it goes down to 2 games, we're like, only 2 games tonight. Like, I love it. And usually we watch so many games and we've seen everybody. But for me, this will be the first time I've seen KD Suns.
Yeah.
It'll be a bunch of teams I haven't seen
different than regular basketball, too. That's the other thing. Is that you have something to play for. It's a little bit different as well. So
we'll see how bad the refs are. Always fun to see how bad the refs are going to be for the playoffs. Which way they're going to go for badness, you know. Whether or not like they're throwing games for certain dudes, which happens every year, and I love the playoffs, man. And I don't care who wins; it doesn't matter to me. Being a Knicks fan for all those years.
Yeah, my coworker, the one I work next to in my office, his name is Asa. He's a huge Lakers fan. Just grew up being a Kobe fan, grew up being a Shaquille O'Neal fan, which is obviously great for me because I'm a Celtics fan. So it's like you have that Celtics-Lakers rivalry. But the truth of the matter is, when it all boils down to it, you just like basketball. And so when we talk about things, we just talk about basketball as a whole. That game was amazing, or this player was amazing, or we can't wait for this, and so on. We were a huge fan of bubble basketball. Like the bubble basketball to us was like the epitome of the past couple of years, in my opinion. Like games at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it was just like awesome. But the basketball as a whole has been great.
The Matisse Tybel vlog about the bubble was just the greatest thing too. Is just to see the sort of day-to-day of all that stuff. I will say, like, I think that bubble playoff should have an asterisk next to it, but
yes, it should be.
I'm a real hater. I think the Toronto Raptors one should have an asterisk next to it too. Who did they beat? Who did you beat? Draymond?
I hate Kyle Lowry anyway, so it's just that too. But yeah, that's for another day.
Yeah, that's Kyle Stark's hot takes. Let's end on that.
So grab your books. Big week, first week of May is a big week for Kyle Starks. Everybody, if you're a Kyle Starks fan, you're the Kyle Starks on social media, on all of it.
Basically everything.
Lucky guy.
Except for Patreon. Patreon, I'm just Kyle Starks.
Not just Kyle Starks, you're Kyle Starks.
Yes.
Because that would have been a great name, actually. It's just Kyle Starks. Sorry.
I feel like maybe I should have done that instead of the Kyle. I'm like, it's not the Kyle Starks, it's the Kyle Starks. There's many of them. I'm just saying I'm one of them.
You're one
The
of the
Kyle
Kyle
Starks.
Starks. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's so Patreon. And then you're gonna be at shows like for Kyle, different shows and things like that. But make sure, I mean, everybody buy the comic book. I don't care where you buy it. I'm a big LCS fan, but if you buy it online or whatever, and you buy the trades, it still supports Kyle in a way. So like it shows the publishers that you like his books.
That's what we like. Yes. Show the publishers. Buy it at your stores. Buy it. Don't buy it from me. I mean, if you see me in person, but yeah, don't wait. Bring me a signed copy. Bring me a copy to sign. That's better.
But I always love it. Someone's like, "Oh my god, I bought it on Amazon." I'm like, yes, I understand you don't want to support this mega company, but like, it still supports you in the same way. Like, it shows Dark Horse that when the Where Monsters Lie trade was, it was sold, was like, wait, someone bought it. It doesn't matter where they bought it; it's just they bought it
for the most part. Yeah, for the most part, for sure.
Yeah, but I really appreciate you coming on episode number 100.
The Century Man. Who knew? I didn't know. I'm so excited about it. I'm so important. I'm so meaningful.
I know. That's why I had a good person.
Congratulations on 100.
Thank you. We're very, very excited. And we're keep on going. We're gonna keep chugging away. I gotta get David back on here. David's been on here twice. We'll get him back on here again.
Yeah, get me back on here. Get me back on. This is great.
Yeah. We got new stuff coming up. We got Peacemaker, you got other stuff coming up too. We'll get you back on at some point. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and chatting. Best of luck to the release of Peacemaker. I'm excited for it now too, and all that stuff too, and wrapping up Where Monsters Lie and I Hate This Place because they're great. So keep it up.
We love it. Thanks, man.
Thank you.